Hey, welcome everyone. Hey, this is a podcast that explores various aspects of addiction, potentially focusing on personal stories of recovery, scientific perspectives, societal impacts, and related topics. This podcast often features discussions with experts, individuals in recovery, therapists, and advocates to offer insights and support to those affected by addiction or seeking more information about it. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and today with our guest, Colby Bronson, we're going to be talking about how he created a life he never thought he would have. Colby, thank you for being on the show again, right? This is the second round. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, thank you for what I just want to start this off by thanking you sincerely for everything that you do. You've worked so hard. I've seen you really from the beginning of your journey into this whole thing and watching over the last 3 years, watching you persevere and continue no matter how hard and long the road, has been for you. What you do is amazing. The awareness that you bring is amazing to both sides of addiction. And I love your show, and I'm very grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for those kind words. It's not very often guys can bring tears to my eyes, but you were bringing them, buddy. So thank you so much.
Oh man.
So Colby, gosh, you and I mean, you happened to be on my show, gosh, well over a year ago, probably a year and a
Right.
half ago. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had your lovely wife on a couple times and some quite a few other people that we all know. And you just mentioned you've kind of watched my journey as I started this podcast and where it's at today. And really I've watched yours as well. I mean, yours and your wife's. And just to see the steps, the stepping stones life has put in front of us and the choices that we've made to get us to where we're at today is just amazing.
Right. Yeah, and I've thought kind of a little bit long and hard about what I would like to talk about, and I thought about maybe going into my history and working at relating to an audience of addiction, and I would really rather talk about the pathways that I've learned about, the different pathways of recovery that I've learned throughout that journey. A brief synopsis of my past is, you know 3 years secure care as a juvenile, drugs, meth and heroin addiction for 20 years, 15 years of adult corrections prison, and now 5 years of sobriety and recovery. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about some of the tools that I've learned, um, to be this far into recovery and to be, in the life that I have today with my amazing wife Whitney and our beautiful boy, Benyon. He's 2 years old and he's just a lifesaver, literally and figuratively, every day. Um, and I watched a podcast last week that you and Tyler Hansen did, and also one that you did with my wife, Whitney, and was so inspired by some of the conversations and views that were expressed there. The work that Tyler's doing in corrections is a dream of mine, first of all, because I spent so many years there and because I inherently knew throughout that time that there's a lot of fixing that needs to be done inside of the Utah correction system. Hopefully, some different paradigms that are starting to be allowed. With Tyler going in there and showing people that there's another way of health and healing. And then my wife's podcast about all things metaphysical. She's just such an inspiration in regards to expanding that range of view. And especially in Utah, I grew up LDS, um, and was taught a lot of good morals and values through that, religion. And something that you said in your podcast with Whitney was that, back in the day, it used to be really religious instead of spiritual. And now today, you're very spiritual instead of religious. And I just, you know, also latch onto that aspect really well because in my personal belief spirituality is who we are. We are spirits now here today. We're spirits from the beginning. We There's a saying, um, We are spiritual beings seeking a mortal existence, not mortal beings seeking a spiritual experience, And so to, begin my day every day with the hope and belief that I am spiritual first and that I am already everything that I aspire to be. I'm already all of these things. I'm already, amazing. I'm already honest, integrity, compassion, hope, strength, respect. I'm already perseverance. I'm already confidence. I'm already all of these things. And one of the main keys or topics that I'd like to talk about today is opposition, and why there are opposing forces. Um, in holographic human theory, which is a theory written and developed by Janie Marvin. Um, she has written 5 books, all about different aspects of your brain, your body chemistry, physics, laws and principles, quantum physics, thermodynamics, and a lot of other really cool integrative principles that allow one individual to learn who they truly are. And when I say learn who I truly am, I'm not talking about, long walks on the beaches and rainbows and trips to Hawaii. That's not who I am. Those are things that I might identify with, but that's not who I am. I am I am a spiritual being of infinite potential, of the most worthy life that you can possibly imagine for yourself. And when you said that phrase, here's Colby living a life, creating a life he never thought he could have. I am doing this by living through some of the principles that I'd like to talk about today. Um,
And before you start on that, Colby, I really love where you just took all this. You know, I had a date a week ago, and when I went to go drop her off, we actually sat in the vehicle for an hour and a half and just talked.
yeah,
And it was all about almost pretty much what you just said.
yeah,
Because she's that spiritual person in her life, right? She's had some things happen to her where she's like, okay, I'm not going to live my life this way anymore. This is how I want to see my life. And she knows she needs the help of something greater than her, right? She calls it God. I call it God. Other people just call it a higher power, whatever works for them, right? It doesn't matter,
right,
just whatever works for them. And we were both talking about how we wake up every day with gratitude, and it doesn't matter what life's going to throw at us out, because I'll just put it blunt, this is a raw show. Life is going to throw shitballs at us because that's what life does,
yeah,
right? It just
yes,
happens. It just happens. It's how we want to clean ourselves off, I guess, or how we want
right,
to look at it. And when you're in that spiritual state, and you said it very key when you mentioned all those things, that you are already these things. You look at yourself that way and you look at life that way. God is putting that power down for you, and He is
yeah,
placing everything you need to get to where you already see yourself
mm,
right in front. I mean, I got my arms are just covered in goosebumps right now because
yeah,
it's something that I have finally figured out right around the end of last year. And
mhm,
holy crap, how life is changing. And it's
mhm,
changing in an amazing way. So thank you
right.
for starting off that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And those, those shit balls, as you said, those are the principles of opposition that I'd like to kind of work at describing. It's seemingly inevitable as human beings that we're going to encounter opposition in our lives, obviously, right? And in regards to the addiction community and the recovery community, it seems like all there ever is opposition. And I truly believe now today that opposition is for you. It's happening kind of to you, for you, if you will, because um there's a scripture, there must needs be opposition in all things. And that is such a profound scripture due to the fact that it's like, why does there have to be opposition? Well, if there wasn't, then nobody would know what anything ever was. If there wasn't dark, nobody could know light. If there wasn't love, nobody could know, or if there wasn't hate, nobody could know love. If there wasn't pain and sorrow, nobody could know happiness and joy. You know, those opposites are absolute. And when we choose to like do what you said and just maintain a perception of integrating the opposites, right? um so man, there's just so much to say, and so many ways to say it. I'd like to get a little bit into the brain chemistry of opposites. Okay, your subconscious brain, you have three brains. You've got a limbic brain, that's just your reptilian brain. It's your fight or flight. It's your limbic system. It's your chemical part that it releases the endorphins and the serotonin and the dopamine, and it's in charge of all of those kind of chemical processes, right? Norepinephrine, adrenaline. That's why they call it the fight or flight, because when the reptilian brain is in charge, your conscious ability to reason and digest data and make decisions kind of goes out the window. And you're like, I need to be safe. And you run, or you fight until that limbic system kind of says, okay, we're done. And conscious mind has permission again, right? Well, the subconscious brain is the biggest part of the brain. It's the part of the brain that has the most control of your everyday existence. Uh, not well, it does now until you become conscious of the subconscious functions, right? So, conscious brain, it perceives, evaluates, judges, and decides. It says yes and no, and subconscious's job is to take things that conscious has said yes and no to, and if it happens yes and no, or if yes to a certain situation happens over and over and over, subconscious finally has enough information about it. It creates a program, and then it becomes, a keyword here, an automatic function. And automatic functions are very scary in regards to addiction, mental illness, mental health, sin. I mean, any kind of negative oppositional implication that you can put on a human being's life. Automatic functions are a detriment. And until you, okay, so let me just rewind here. How does something become an automatic function? Let's think about, Whitney gave a good example of an automatic function, getting directions to somewhere. I know a lot of the times people use Google Maps, but before Google Maps was available, we had to drive somewhere by finding an address. And while you were driving to that location, you were very consciously aware of all the road signs and all the freeway signs and all the turns, and oh, do I turn left here? Nope, it's a right. Okay, if 200 east is running north, then if it becomes 300 and 400, and I'm trying to get to 670 80, so I got to go that way. It's all a conscious process, right? And say that's your new job, where you're driving is to your new job, and you get there the first day, and it was kind of hard. You had to turn around a few times, you had to make a few U-turns, and then you finally got there. The next day was a little bit easier. Well, fast forward even 3 or 4 days, okay, of going to the same place every single day. On that fourth and fifth day, you didn't have to consciously pay attention to anything. You didn't have to wonder about what turn you should make. It's all become an automatic function. And that's the brilliance of the human brain, okay? And when when those automatic functions start to become automatic, um, conscious doesn't get the ability to perceive, evaluate, judge, and decide anymore. And unless you needed to stop, on your way to work and go somewhere else, then conscious would reevaluate. But if you didn't, it becomes an automatic program. Brushing your teeth, washing your body in the shower, breathing, heartbeat, all of these things are automatic functions controlled and governed by the subconscious brain. That also means addiction, behaviors, emotions, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, all become automatic. Okay, and so that's when I first learned that through holographic human theory. I get really worked up about this, because I'm so passionate about it. When I first learned about automatic functions through holographic human theory, I was astounded by this. I was astounded to really gain the awareness that, oh my gosh, I've lived 20 years of heroin and meth addiction, and I've spent, 15 miserable years in adult corrections in prison. I've gone through an immense amount of trauma and pain and suffering. And all of that was because some simple beliefs were just programmed. And every time I got out of prison and had another opportunity, instead of being consciously aware and choosing a different address, I allowed those automatic functions to perpetuate my misery. And
Yeah.
as soon as I learned about the idea of re-perceiving, re-evaluating, rejudging, and redeciding upon any and all aspects of my emotional state, my mental state, my behaviors, my spiritual state, anything that, I mean, it's a rigorous process to become aware consciously now of subconscious patterns and behaviors is at first daunting. It's a very hard task because you get to choose to be the observer every possible second that you can be aware to be the observer. And what I'm talking about when I say the observer is it's just being the listener of the thoughts. That subconscious program is sending these thoughts up at an enormous rate. There's subconscious processing power, and then there's conscious processing power. Conscious is only allowed 2,000 bits of data every minute. Subconscious gathers and stores like 400 million bits of data a minute. So there's so much coming in, but only a little bit's coming up to our conscious mind. And that's already the stuff, none of the stuff that we have already made decisions about comes up anymore. And so if I've decided that I'm a worthless, no good, sorry piece of shit criminal, then that's all I'm ever going to be until I start to consciously say, hey, wait, I just I just maybe even wonder about the fact that I might not be that person. Then subconscious says, oh, wait, you're wondering now? Oh, it's not a program. Oh, here's all this information. And the beautiful part about holographic human theory is Janie Marvin, her blessed genius soul, developed hundreds of techniques to Im- dramatically improve that ability to acquire information that's just trapped in your subconscious. Um, some of these techniques are very short. They're experiential. They're walks and shifts and weaves and after doing these for even a short time, 30 days, I started to get all this new information about myself from my subconscious. And when I'd like to revisit that opposition thing when all the negatives coming up to my life's experience. I'm a dirtbag. I'm on parole. I'm all these things, and all of that's permeating my life. In 30 days of doing these techniques and involving myself in this information of holographic human theory, I started to get all of that opposite information. But it was good because it was opposite of my real life experience of my true reality. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can be good. Oh, I do have integrity. Oh, I can be trusted. Oh, I can be responsible. Oh, I can tell the truth. It's just
It's
it's these.
it's Oh,
Go
go ahead.
ahead.
No, I'm saying we're retraining new neurons in our brain,
Exactly.
right? Because I mean, I've been learning about stuff like this myself here just
Yeah.
recently, right? Since about the beginning of the year. And I still got a lot more to learn. However, it's so fascinating. You know,
Mhm.
during some of this training that I was taking, the coaches asked who brushed their teeth with their right hand and who brushed with their left. Well, those who brush with their left, they said, okay, we want you to brush with your right for the next
Yeah.
7 days. Those that with your right, do it with your left. And
Uh-huh.
and you just basically said it in the holographic way, I guess you could
Mm.
say,
Yeah.
and it's been scientifically proved.
Hmm.
The more you start firing certain neurons to change the brain, because now you're working your brain, just like going to the
Right.
gym. Instead of lifting weights, you're lifting weights in your head, right?
Yeah.
And you start connecting them. And the
Hmm.
more you start doing it, the stronger they start binding.
Yes.
And
Yep.
I was just explaining that to someone today at a group that I was in this morning. Like, I've not seen all the Spider-Man ones, but I think there was a Spider-Man one where this black stuff kinda reached out and it could grab you, and, and I'm like, picture your neurons doing that in your head, right? So
Mhm.
you're grabbing onto a new idea, and the more you start consciously being aware of it,
Yep.
it starts getting stronger and stronger, and pretty soon the bind is like this.
Yep.
But the cool thing is, though, is being a worthless piece of shit and being a loser and this and that,
Yeah.
those things start separating
Exactly.
because they're not firing as strong anymore because it's not thought of as often.
Exactly. Yep. Joe Dispenza says it eloquently. He says, "Nerves that fire together wire together." Joe
Exactly.
Dispenza he's a champion of brain research, and he's such a. If the viewers or listeners haven't heard about Joe Dispenza, he's written several books. We Are the Placebo. Um, Now I'm not going to think of it, but he's written several books about what we're talking about, and he breaks it down into very understandable topics. I mean, a lot of this stuff is like neuro research, and it seems a little bit, or a lot of it, profound. I mean, when I first started studying these things, I was like, quantum physics, I'm never going to be able to understand any of this. But the truth about every single human being on the face of this earth is that we are all Einsteins. We are all infinitely intelligent. We are all capable of whoever, whatever we choose. We are all amazing people. It's and the only thing getting in the way of, you know, listeners who just heard me say that, how many of you just went, yeah, but not me? Or
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
right.
it's and that's that program.
Or it's
You
or it's
just
I'm
identified a
too old.
program.
This is how I lived my life all
Yeah.
my life. It's too late for me, right?
Exactly. And the beautiful part about, even right now as we speak and they hear us, these listeners hear us, and those that did say yeah but not me, and they say, "Oh wait, I did say that. Why? Why did I just say yeah but not me? Why do I believe that about myself?" And then do your research on that question. Actually go down that hole and say, "Hey, wait. Why do I think that?" You know, what is it about me or my past influences that make me believe that I can't be Einstein, or that I can't understand what is being talked about here, or that I'm incapable of going on this journey? They're way too good for this. Is way too good for me. That is such a travesty. It's
Yes.
something that I'm so familiar with even today. I limit myself. I mean, and I watch it play out because I'm more aware of, my brain processes and my emotional response, and we're only talking about thoughts here. And, when the emotion is attached to the thought, that makes it 100 times more powerful.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Ener- Emotion is energy in motion. Energy permeates everything that exists. It's this desk, it's this cup, it's this phone, it's this my wife's license plate. It's all composed of atoms and particles that are just corresponding, right? And they've
Mhm.
proven this on a scientific level. We as human beings are just as much a part of this desk as we are a part of our human system. 50% of our body isn't even us. It's microbes and biomes and bacteria and flesh eating stuff and bugs, and 50% of our physical body isn't even us. We wouldn't even be able to exist without all of that stuff corresponding in a way that makes us whole and healthy, right? So when we're talking about emotion, it's that energetic tie to the thought that makes it that much deeper of a program. And let's just talk about some of the most detrimental emotions, especially in addiction. We get shame, despair, loss, grief, right? Anger is a secondary emotion of fear and pain, right? So those of you that have anger problems, there's all of these programs and neurofires and wires that are saying that I'm a pissed off angry person. And when I used oh man, I used to have the worst anger problem.
Yeah.
And I,
Me
I went
too.
to Matter Behavioral Health. Yeah, I was just such an angry person. I mean, it was fight first, or especially in prison. And I realized that I'm angry because I'm terrified. I'm angry because there's a scared little boy inside me that remembers who I truly am and has created all of these monstrous programs to keep me safe. And, you know, through all my traumatic experiences in prison and all of that stuff. And when I started to look inside myself for that little boy, I mean, I did this guided imagery one time where, or no, it was a holotropic breath work experience where I went deep state, subconscious, and I found my little boy in this dark, dreary cell in my imagination. I mean, it was the coolest experience in the whole world. But I found him and I pulled him out of there. I said, "Hey, come here. It's okay. You know, everything's gonna be fine." And I swear, those are the things, those meditative processes and these techniques that, you know, I laughed at the beginning, are the things that I rely upon to get through the dysfunction that exists in my life every day. I mean, opposition will continue to come no matter how high you get.
Yep.
That's the purpose of it all. The purpose of the entropy cycle versus the neg entropy cycle is to encounter opposition, realize that it's for you, find out why it's happening, gauge your personal reaction to the opposition, and choose to grow, choose to create a new program. All of those oppositional forces that are outside of you that are happening allow the average individual to become a victim. And that victim, you know, mentality keeps us stuck in those paradigms. It keeps
Oh,
us,
yeah.
a paradigm is like it's a horse with blinders on. You know, those horses, they put those blinders on them when they're going down a busy street, because if a horse can't see right to the left, it's not going to get spooked. But if you took those blinders off, you would have a paradigm shift, and all of a sudden you can start to see different options and different solutions.
Yeah.
Um,
I've talked about that before on the show many times, that so many of us out there, me including at one time in my life, constantly looking at life through a straw. Remember when we're little boys, right? We're like playing pirates or something, and we got our
yeah.
telescope, and but all you can see is just this little teeny bit, you know. And until we remove the straw or we split
Mhm,
it, like you're saying, and start opening things up,
mhm.
we start missing so many other things that's out there. And yeah, and a lot of us, we are the molds of our parents as well, right? I mean, I
Right.
remember when I had Robert from Tosa on, you know, he grew up in the gang world in
Right.
California. You know, he thought
Mhm.
that's just how life was. He thought everybody lived their life that way, right?
Had no idea.
Had no idea
Right.
until it started shifting up here, right?
Mhm.
Until these started firing different and he started realizing, oh my gosh, I've been looking at life completely the wrong way. And all of us do it. We all fall into that trap. And it's
Yeah.
that dreaded drama triangle, like what you just said. And
Yeah.
we've talked about that's another thing I've learned too, right? Is the Cartman triangle.
Yeah.
We all fall into that victim, persecutor, and rescuer, and it's just an
Right.
ongoing thing constantly.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, you know, and you talked about the straw, and the question in my mind is, if you didn't know you were looking through a straw, if you had no idea that this was all you could see, right? It's just what it was. How would you remove the straw? How would you even know that the straw was there? It's through the opposition. you you know, if you're looking through a straw and a bird comes and smacks you in the face, you're like, oh crap, why
I
didn't I
didn't
see
see
that
it.
bird? Right. And in my life, you know, I got smacked by 50 different Mack trucks, you know, and still chose to see through the straw. And that's because a lot of my, you know, growing up years were that traumatic to me, or whatever it was. I was choosing the pain and misery because that's all I knew. You know,
Yeah,
that's all I knew, and it's what was familiar, and screw if I'm ever going to do anything different because I'm comfortable here, you know. Yet after a while, you know, it's like, hey, this isn't fun anymore. What else is out there? And sometimes that, you know, Mack truck that hits you in the face knocks that straw away, and all of a sudden we call that people call it rock bottom, or it's called, in holographic human theory, Janie calls it something that is really cool. I can't remember it. Sorry, it's been a while. Yet those rock bottom stages, that's talked about in NA and in recovery quite often, are the biggest opportunities, because it's called far from equilibrium state in regards to open and closed systems. It's the third book Janie wrote. The far from equilibrium state is when something has happened to you to take away all of your boundaries, to just shed them. A lot of addicts, it's getting arrested. To our listeners, and so to the addict that's listening and to the family of a recovering addict that's listening, how many times did you get to jail and make that phone call and say, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for what I've done. And you see it clearly. It's obvious to you. In that situation where you've finally gotten to jail, the drugs are all gone. You might be saying sorry, but there's a part of you that's being genuine, hopefully. And you can call your mom or your dad or your wife or your whoever it is that supports you the most, that loves you, and you realize, you see it through real eyes. Okay, that's a cool kind of phonological ambiguity. That word realize is, a realization is a mental thing. It's also seeing yourself or life through real eyes, and you realize all of the things that you've been doing that are against your true self. They're going counter to who you truly are. And anytime in anybody's life, in every human being that exists on this planet, that they choose to go against who they truly are, the laws of the universe will combine and throw them opposition. That opposition is a designed force via God, your higher self, angels, you know, fourth, fifth, sixth dimensional beings, whatever you choose to believe, however you choose to believe it. I'm down with it, whatever. I'm open, right? Hopefully. Yet those forces of opposition are being thrown at you on purpose to get you to wake up to a sense of who you truly are. And we can keep denying, refusing, and repressing that opposition and say, no, that's not about me. That's about you. That's about my boss. That's about, my wife. That's about my
Throwing
dad beating me
throwing
when
the
I was a
blame
kid.
elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. You're being the victim. Right. But yet until you choose to say, hey, what part of this is actually mine, which is most of it, because regardless of whether or not I had an abusive father or whatever anybody's victim story is, you now have choice between that and this. You now have choice to be who that created or who you choose to create. And the simple process is, there's four integrative principles in holographic human theory. One is linguistics. Linguistics is the literal words that we use. One is energetic. Um, One is through your body, your physical body, an awareness of your movements that tells a whole story. And then spiritual is the fourth integrative principle. When I'm talking about integrative principle, I'm talking about ways that you integrate that opposition, right? As you choose to integrate the opposition, you're choosing to level up from it instead of being knocked down from it, right? So when I get arrested and I go to jail and I say, hey, this is the last time, it's over. If I just go to jail and do my time and get out without taking action steps towards really saying and being over, then I'm just going to fall back into my subconscious patterns and beliefs, right? So it's a rigorous process. And one of the biggest stepping stones for me to see outside of some of my detrimental paradigms was that linguistics process, that first process. And in holographic human theory, they teach you about words and language. And the awesome thing about words and language is that your subconscious, it takes everything literally. It doesn't know sarcasm or jokes or just kiddings. It doesn't. So when you say I'm tired, subconscious says, okay, I guess I'm not going to give you energy. Or when you say, I'm just a low life piece of crap, subconscious says, yes, you are. Okay, we'll be a low life piece of crap then. And so when you even say, when you use words like but,
You taught me
yeah,
this last time. Yeah.
right. So just simple, but, can't, don't, all these small words that you say, I can't do that. Subconscious, what does subconscious do? It says, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to give you a solution then, because you can. You've already got it figured out. So subconscious doesn't give you any more information. So simply just being aware of the words that we use can start to ignite the fire of changing those neurons that you're talking about.
Yeah.
As soon as you say, instead of I can't get sober, or I can't help my struggling son who's an addict anymore, I can't enable him. As soon as you start to say, what could I do? What could I do instead? Subconscious says, oh, you're reevaluating it. Oh, here's some information for you. And then holographic human theory, or several different really cool metaphysical ways of healing. Meditation is a huge one, because when you meditate, you're getting down out of those beta levels of consciousness, that thinking all the time, which is where we kind of remain when we're awake and at work and doing things, down into those theta levels of conscious, which it slows down conscious processing and it allows more data to be sent up to be reevaluated, right? So when you're in that meditative state, you've got an intention of, hey, I'm going to meditate about ways I can be my own hero instead of a victim. And you spend 20 minutes a day for a week, and it's called compounding and repeating. When subconscious programs through a process of compound and repetition and speed over accuracy, right? It's really fast at gathering and storing the data. And if you do it an amount of times, then it becomes a program, and subconscious has everything it needs pretty quickly, right? It's like remembering a phone number. If you hear it 5 or 6 times, you can recite it a few more times every day, and then it'll be in there forever.
Yeah.
The truth about it is, though, subconscious has it the first time. Subconscious has never deleted any of the information ever
That's
that
why
you've ever gotten.
I heard the phrase today. It's like try to hold a beach ball underwater.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, because
Yeah.
you can practice doing different things to start refiring new neurons and start learning new things to do and how to live your life properly. And it literally as they start separating, the subconscious starts putting it down further and further and further and further in the file cabinet, right? It's at the very back of the file cabinet. But it literally takes a blink of an eye to have that sucker come right back just like that. It
Oh, yeah.
is so fast. Even a smell, a song, someone say a
Yep.
different word, or you go in a part of town that you don't really like because it gives those triggers, right? It comes back so quick. And
Mhm.
I hope I'm not taking you off your subject, but something that you said
Nope.
earlier to help us start really looking at things, because you said until we start changing the way we're thinking, how we're looking at things, and wanting to reevaluate things, so our subconscious goes, okay, oh my gosh, this is something new. Like you said, let me help you towards this, right? Me and a buddy of mine that I used to work with, we used to like to say, look at the message in the mirror and what's the lesson behind it? Because there's a lesson behind everything. When you don't get
Absolutely.
that lesson, and I know this for a fact because I dealt with it with my ex-wife for many, many years. I wasn't getting the lesson. That's why the same things kept happening to me constantly. Once I figured it out and I got the lesson, poof, it was
Goes
gone.
away.
Now another one came at me, right? Okay,
Right.
here comes another one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
however, now I start learning these tools. Okay, what's the
Mm-hmm.
lesson behind it? Instead of reacting to it so quickly, like I've done all my life,
Yep.
I'm now going, okay, why did this happen? Did
Mm-hmm.
I cause this to happen because the way my thoughts were? And there's some things that happen. I mean, I've heard people say before, I got a new car, watch. I'll probably get in a freaking accident, and then 2 weeks later, a month later, 2 months later, boom, they get in an accident.
Yep.
It's like, holy
Mm-hmm.
crap. So
Yeah.
it's
That's
it's
the
it's
power of belief.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we're
And
the
suggestion.
conscious creators, when we're paying
Yep.
attention to this up here,
Yep.
years ago, I realized when I was driving down the road, Kobe, I read a book, Conscious Creator. I actually read it twice. And I realized The majority of my day, all I was thinking was negative thoughts
Mhm.
constantly.
Yeah.
It's like, why the heck am I thinking this? Where did this come from? I don't
Right.
understand why, and it took time to start shifting or sweeping that stuff under the rug, per
Right.
se. So everything that you're saying is so spot on. And this is how we create our lives, right? I mean, we've got the power.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's I'm super passionate about this, and I'm super interested about, obviously what I'm talking about. At the same time, this isn't the only pathway to help. It's not the only pathway to healing. It was the pathway that finally got to me. I mean, I did quite a bit of therapy growing up, and I did 4 different prison programs for a total of 4 years, some 2 years long, and I'd get out and redo the same things over and over. And I truly intended, you know, I truly believe that when I say this, it's true that I intended to never go back every time. And then 60 days later, I'd be back in prison and I'd be going, what the frick?
Yeah.
How did that happen? I'd be so, especially the last couple of times that I went there, I would be back in R&O in intake, and I would just down on the floor, like, what happened? Why? And when I learned about my brain and I got to know myself and my internal functions and my internal programs and started to see down inside myself, I I became very aware of why I went back every time. And these things that I'm talking about, holographic human theory and these techniques and this awareness of oneself is, in a 90-day program, I tore down generational patterns. I got down into my, true beliefs about myself. And it happened. What I'm trying to say is it happens really quick. If you just start to choose to say, you know what, I get to take charge of my thoughts. I get to I get to stop that rat race going on in my head. That's what I call it. It's just this rat race. It's going all these negative thoughts, and you're going, where did these thoughts come from? Those thoughts are just programs, and they're not just the thought itself, like, oh, that guy's ugly or whatever it is that you say that's negative. It's the judgment factor, and it's the personality trait down there, because the truth about everything out here in the world, the only things that you're recognizing that are negative out there are things that you believe about yourself. That's that mirror concept. If you say, oh, that guy's super egotistical, then you probably better check your ego,
That's why we
like,
judge others.
right, exactly, because we believe those things about ourselves, or we have those problems within us. And the minute I choose throughout my day to say, hey, what can I learn from this instead of why is this happening, is the minute I start to progress instead of digress, right? And that's another thing that they used to say in treatment all the time. If you're not progressing, you're going backwards, because you're never going to just really stay, where you're at. You're either moving forward or you're stuck in the past, and the past has a lot of valuable information for us. At the same time, it's not all that there is. There's this beautiful present moment right now that's happening every single time we choose to be in it. It's beautiful. I mean, there's, Man's Search for Meaning with Viktor Frankl. He chose to see the beauty in the most dire of circumstances, being, in Auschwitz and in several different concentration camps. And he developed logotherapy, which is, it's an opportunity to see your present moment as something that can be beautiful no matter what. And I learned that concept when I was in prison. I had to do 22 months straight of maximum security time. I got an hour and 15 minutes outside of my cell 3 times a week. So I was in kind of a 10 by 6 foot box for 22 months. And I got to do some super intense, because that was my last time in prison. And that was when I was like, there has got to be something else. And my dad sent me this book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I was so upset at that book, because Eckhart Tolle was was telling me that I get to choose to be present. And I'm looking around my cell at these like yellow colored bricks in these metal beds with no, and I'm seeing all of these things that are just horrible about my situation. And I'm like, I don't want to be in here. I don't want to be present now. Why? I want to be in my imagination out camping or something, right? And I chose to start integrating some of the principles that I was learning in Power of Now. And I chose to start, and I actually started to see opportunity that I learned how to draw. I became a pretty good portrait artist in there. And that's awesome. I didn't realize I had that talent. I started to read a lot of self-help books. And that was, I say that was my 0 point. That was my ground zero right there. That was my rock bottom. Because ever since then, even though I've relapsed and I went back to jail and I've done all these things, ever since I chose to start being aware of my present situation in that book, I've been progressing slowly. I mean, I've dropped back down, but I've chose to climb up, and I think if I were to have anybody get anything out of this is that, it's we are there's nobody in here that's perfect. There's nobody in this world that is. There never has been anybody that's been absolutely perfect. And that's not an expectation that anybody could ever have of themselves. And I know through my own experiences in addiction that I truly believe that the only way I was going to dig myself out of that hole is if I learned how to be perfect. And the biggest thing that holographic human theory taught me was to be kind to myself, was to be nice, love myself, see my positive traits, believe that I even have a chance, and those techniques they're extremely powerful because they work through the laws of your subconscious. You're consciously choosing to immerse yourself in this 20-minute technique or guided imagery, or you use your sensory symbols, and you choose an intention, and you say, you know what, I'm going to choose to do this technique on truly believing in myself. And you do the technique, and then after that, you hope that you truly believe in yourself, but you really don't know yet. But through those laws of compounding and repeating that technique, 10 and 20 times through perseverance and diligence and discipline, pretty soon you've created a rock solid program of, I believe in myself. Even if I have bad days, I still know that I'm a good person inside. I have a heart of gold. I am capable. I can do this. This isn't going to be forever. Whatever hardship that I'm going through, it's not going to be forever, and it's really probably not going to last longer than 10 or 15 minutes because we're progressing and we're going to move through this.
Yeah. And we're always progressing, right? I like to say quite often on this show that when it comes to bettering ourselves and progressing, it's there's no finish line. There is not. I mean, until God calls us home, basically that's the finish line, right? We did what we could do. Because it's that constant learning, that constant wanting to be better. And what's also crazy and you said it here just a second ago about loving ourselves. You know, when my ex-wife was going through a lot of the stuff, and I was praying and I kept hearing the word forgiveness, and this was after I did a fast and all that, and I kept hearing the word forgiveness, and I'm like, Father, yeah, you think I'm going to forgive her? There's no way. There's no way, right? I'm playing the victim to the T. This
Right.
happened, this happened, this is why this is why that. It took some time, and I finally realized that forgiveness wasn't for her, it was for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because once I forgave myself, because I did a lot of mean things, right? In the depths of her addiction, I said a lot of terrible things. All I did was throw more fuel on the fire, not knowing how to handle it. And a lot of people on the other side of addiction do that to their loved ones because they think they're helping when we're not.
Yeah.
It's same with love. When we love ourselves, and it's not selfish, when we can start loving ourselves for who we are as individuals, man, it starts coming to us tenfolds from
Yeah.
everywhere.
Right.
And I want to add something in with everything that we've talked about here. It's very important to surround yourself with those like-minded type people, because we all energize off of one another, and we all help one another. You know, I had a friend help me last night. I was talking to her on the phone, and I'm telling her about, you know, I'm almost done with this class, and I'm so excited, and all this fun stuff. And I'm like, I got to take the test, and I've never been good at tests, and I've always sucked at tests. And I'm telling her, she goes, ow, whoa, wait a minute. She goes, you need to rephrase that. And I went, oh my gosh, Jessica, you're
Yeah,
right. Here I
that's right.
am telling myself before I even
Mm,
take it, right? So
mm,
those are the
yeah,
type of people you got to be around, because we help one another. We help one another build,
yeah,
and we start pointing things out like you did the last show you happened to be on. I'm saying but, and you're like, did you know but could be a negative thing? I'm like, what? Are you
yeah.
serious? You says, yeah, it cancels it out. Now it can be used also for good. It's just how
Hmm.
your words flow with it. So you taught me a very valuable lesson that day. And like
Right
I
on.
said, that was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, linguistics are super powerful. They're super important. They play a huge role in the development of our brains and our programs and our beliefs. Linguistics are very powerful. When you just decide to be conscious of the words that you choose and the sentences and the way that you phrase and curate and create your sentences, you can start to be your power, which is, your biggest power in life is choice and authenticity. um, if I don't have a choice, I'm doing something wrong, right? If I don't have an option in life, then I'm stuck in a program. I am. If there isn't an abundance of solutions for me, I'm stuck inside of a program. And I might not even realize that I've got that straw up to my eye until somebody else, points it out, or until I get knocked down hard enough that I'm going to wake up to, see, being willing to see the solutions. And I love what you said. Whitney always, used to say, and still says that, show me your 5 closest relationships and I'll tell you your future. And that's, what you said about involving yourself in a community of like-minded individuals. I've heard it said, so even Tyler Hansen in the podcast that I watch, he said, I'm around giants all the time, you know, and that's so cool, because who wants to be the coolest guy in the room? That's, then you're not getting anywhere. You're done, and I don't know how much time we have, but I just like to re-express, Al, unbeknownst to you, just through witnessing your social media and your progress, you've really inspired me to work at getting back into these things that light me up. If we are not following our passions, we are doing ourselves an extreme disservice. And in that podcast that you talked about with Whitney, you described my current life's biggest struggle, which is the fact that I have to do this job to take care of myself and my family, and I have been stuck in that paradigm until you, my friend, helped me see that I'm grateful that I have my bills paid, and I get to go do this work, and I have these opportunities to support my loving family, and having that attitude of gratitude versus, dang, I have to go back and do this, and my back hurts and my muscles are sore and I don't have, the energy to do anything else after work. And that has been my focus for like literally a year. Um, and hearing you say that really woke me up to where my mind state and emotional state has been. And I just want to express that dearly to you, and thank you so much for the influence that you have on this show, The Other Side of Addiction. It's a wonderful show.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
grateful
you.
to be on here.
Thank you so much. Well, you know, and it's the show success isn't me. You know, the show success is all the guests that have come on the show. And seriously, and the listeners, you know, they're the ones that's built it, because um, this is just a platform that's been built and created to allow
Right.
people to come on and say what it is that they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel very blessed and grateful for that, you know, to be able to go through. I was talking about this again this morning at this event that I was at with some people. It's like here I thought living through the battle of my ex-wife's alcoholism, my life was destroyed and it was over. And it's turned out to be the biggest blessing because as whew, the emotions come up, it has changed me to be such a better person. And every single one of my guests that have come on the show has helped me to become a better person. And the more that I'm getting that help, I think with all of us,
Mhm.
we just want to share that, right? We don't want to keep it because that's not what we're
Mhm.
here to do. We're here to share it and help as many individuals as we can. And
Right.
it's crazy. It's crazy how life is like that word, life isn't happening to us, it's happening for us. And it really is. That is a true freaking statement. It
Mhm.
really is. And to even see, you know, you and Whitney's advance in life, my gosh, it's so amazing. I mean, when I first met all you guys, right? I met Jackie and Whitney and Janie and I've ended up meeting you and to see where all of us was at that time in our life 3 years ago and to see where
Mhm.
we're at right now, hell, that's
Yeah.
proof. That's
Yeah.
proof right there that this stuff isn't just gibberish and nonsense. It
Yeah.
changes our lives. It really does change our lives in so many ways.
Yeah. I love it. Um, Whitney always she tells me a lot, when I choose to stay in that negative victim state, she says, "Look how far you've come." She starts pointing out things that I am being today that, man, 3 years ago I would have given anything for, and it's like, man, I have come so far, and I'm so grateful for everybody that's had such a positive influence on me in my path. And I'd just like to say that we are working at creating a platform also to work at spreading this information, this wisdom, this knowledge to others. We haven't really got a website put together yet. At the same time, there's a holographic human community page that you can like and subscribe to. And I hope pretty soon we're going to start putting together some podcasts and webcasts and things like that, and start, if you're interested in any of these concepts that I've talked about, or if you're someone who experiences pain and problems or addiction on any level, not drugs and alcohol, I'm talking about addictive emotions, addictive eating patterns, addictive work, if you're addicted to work, if you have any issues that you feel aren't making you whole, then like and subscribe to us, and we hope to start getting this information back out there to individuals who choose to hear it and receive it.
Yeah, please do. And Colby, please make sure I get that link so I can put it on the
Yeah.
caption on the show. And yeah, again, this is what's so cool about being a part of all this community, right?
Yeah.
And so many of us are now coming up with these new ideas and these new thoughts about doing
Mhm.
different things just to grow it and to make it better. And you said something. I read the book called The Ultimate Coach, and in that book, when it says being, it's
Mhm.
capital B and E, lowercase ing.
There you
So
go.
it's being, right? Being us, being inside and living who we are as individuals. And then you said something right before that. You says, I am being. And I,
Yeah.
I had a friend, a past guest co-host says she was on my show again. And she goes, Al, I love this post you did on social media that says the words that follow I am follow you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot all about that post. And that is so true because we've talked about the words, so yeah, and a lot of times I'll type in when I say I am, I'll do both those words in all uppercase. I am
Mhm.
because I'm speaking. This is me, who I am, and yeah. So not to kind of go into all that because we've covered it, but those are two powerful words, very powerful words that can change your life as well.
Their
And
identity level statement.
what's that?
I am, anytime you use I am, it's an identity level statement, and subconscious takes what follows after that very literally.
Yeah,
It's
that's
very
why
strategic.
certain there's certain recovery type things out there that's one I'd like to see revamped.
Right.
Just that part, because I don't believe in that labeling. They,
There you go.
people in addiction, you said it even early in the show, we've been labeled for so long,
Yep.
right? And we've labeled ourselves. We, I don't believe that we need to continue to label ourselves in that direction. And I learned this from Todd Sylvester. Todd Sylvester said he did a talk in a prison, and he asked everyone, why are you did are who's in here for breaking the law? Every hand went up,
Yeah.
and then he's like, so how many of you have broke the law today? No hands went up. And he goes, so my whole point, and I hope I'm not slaughtering it, Todd, if you happen to hear this, but his whole point is he was getting individuals there to realize they got in there for doing what they did, but now what they're not that person anymore,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
They're not there. So why say you're a criminal because you haven't stolen anything, you
Hmm.
haven't broken any law because
Yeah.
you don't have a chance to, and I guess you still can there when you're incarcerated, you can do things. However, I thought that was very powerful, and he said every single inmate come up and hugged him after that because he got them thinking, right?
Mm.
He's changing their firing inside their head, going, oh my gosh, I got to think about this.
Yeah. It's very powerful stuff. And we are incredible beings. We are incredible spiritual beings, and every single day you are being your true self or you aren't. And be aware of what you are being in your life. Am I being a man of integrity and compassion and conviction and strength, or am I being any of those oppositional phrases that can follow those, and really just asking yourself honest questions and being willing to have integrity regarding those answers, even if the answers are hard for yourself to hear, is a big step in the right direction. And we would love to, anybody who is struggling, reach out to us, and we'd love to help you out and teach you some of these concepts. um, yeah.
Yeah, well, I highly recommend you guys. So any of our listeners, man, I highly recommend Colby and Whitney. I've known these guys for 3 years now, and they are true to their word. And you guys saw it. You saw Colby's heart, man. He's all in it. And Whitney was just on the show a couple of weeks ago or a week ago. She's all heart. This is their passion, and this is their love. And when you work with people like that, you can't go wrong. You just cannot go wrong because they're there for you. They're definitely there for you. And those are the type of people I love to work with that are there for the individuals. Yes, we want to do a business. Yes, we want to make a living. However, the number one priority is taking care of other individuals. So, Kobe, is there anything else you would like to add before we sign off? We've actually gone over an hour. This time goes by so flipping fast.
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed the show, and I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks.
Okay. Well, Kobe, thank you again. Thank you to again all our listeners, all our past sponsors, and definitely all our guests. We really appreciate all of you. Again, none of this would be happening if it wasn't for you. We've got some really good shows that are coming up. Matter of fact, I just got someone from the UK here that's going to be coming up here pretty soon, and I'm really excited to listen to what she has to say. It's going to be a really exciting show. Everyone is going to be an exciting show. Guys, take care of yourselves. Be safe out there, and remember this: addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.